What's up? Today we're talking more about camera cages for the Sony A7S, and today we've got the new lightweight Smallrig cage. We're going to draw some comparisons to the original camera cage and also the Nitze camera cage for the Smallrig for the Sony A7S III, which I literally moments ago just finished making my review for. So let's get into it. Alright, so thank you to Smallrig for sending me this cage to check out. I've got the top handle here as well, which looks like a very handsome looking cage and handle kit. I love the way that this looks, so I'm excited to try it out. I've really loved Smallrig's A7S III cage and other cages throughout my years of using different cameras. I've been using the Smallrig cage, this old one, the original one, here for quite a while, and I've had very few complaints with it. Honestly, we're going to go ahead and get my biggest complaint right out of the way, even before taking this out of the box, because I can tell just by looking at it that this complaint exists. And that's the fact that, just like the original Smallrig cage, there are no front-facing screw threads on the cage. Here on this Nitze cage, we have one on the front, and we also have some front-facing screw threads on the side, on the top. So we can do things like mount this little quarter 20 screw-in style rod for a follow focus here, for a really compact but very nice little rig here. The original Smallrig cage that I have here did not have that, has no front-facing screw threads for something like that, and neither does this. And that's my main complaint, because I think for something that is a cinema camera, it's not really a cinema camera at all, but people do use it like a cinema camera. They rig it up like a cinema camera, but it is still compact, so we want to keep it compact at the same time. It's that balance. And I think that being able to mount accessories like this is a really big benefit for keeping it compact yet still being functional as a semi-cinema style camera. Although again, before even taking this out of the box, I do want to point out that the original cage had this cold shoe up on the top right side, whereas the new one, just from looking at the picture, I can see that it's on the left side. And so there are mounts for cold shoes to mount rods on there, so you can do things like that. Even with the old cage, I had, for example, my PD movie follow focus comes with a cold shoe rod mount. I use that right on here, and that's great for wireless follow focuses, for example. It doesn't matter really where they're mounted, so you just use that cold shoe adapter in here. You've got the rod out front, wireless follow focus on there, boom, no problem. But with a manual follow focus like this one that I have here, that's something that usually I'm operating with my left hand. So having that only on the right side doesn't help me. But this new cage, again, I can tell from the picture, it does have that cold shoe on the left side now. So for things like that, for things like a cold shoe mounted rod for a follow focus, I think that's going to be a much better setup. So lightweight, not lightweight. For me, it's more of a design change that does make this a little bit more usable. We'll take this out of the box now and we'll see what other differences besides the weight there are to the original cage and which one I would choose, this one or the original. Alright, so what I've got here is the cage. I've got some tools. I've got their new top handle that comes with this new design, and I've got the HDMI clamp. Now these are all kind of more of a space gray, I would say, instead of a black. You can see the two colors here as my camera focuses. Focus, there you go. You can see kind of see the color difference there. It's very slight, but I do like it. If you're mixing and matching accessories, maybe it's not quite as ideal, or I don't know if you care. But it looks cool. You've also got this big bright red Smallrig badge up top. I honestly don't like that. It stands out. I like the color scheme. The dark gray, space gray, and red looks nice, but I don't know. It's a little standout. The same with this top handle here. You've got much, I guess you could say, louder branding on this new design. You've got these like racing stripes down the side of the cage. You've got the badge for A7S III. I don't think any of this is necessary, honestly. Aesthetically, whatever, if that's your cup of tea, but that is what it is. Now, just looking at the top of these cages, the top of the new cage has been significantly slimmed down from the original, really streamlined throughout here, including this top main mounting point here. Much smaller number of screw threads, of course, but you do still have a 3/8 inch screw thread with those locating pins on the side, a couple quarter 20s. You've now saved some space on this right side where all the dials and buttons are, and you've moved the cold shoe over to the side. It's also at an angle, so it should kind of follow the shape of the body a little bit more, I guess be a little bit more compact. I don't really care that much, but I do like that the cold shoe is on the left side. As I said, it does seem to be a little bit lower. I don't think that's going to be really easy to show you. Maybe if I line them up like this, you can see here that that is a little bit lower, which does mean if you have to squeeze your fingers in there to turn any of those dials, it's going to be a little bit tighter with the clearance from the body of the camera to the cage. We'll see if that's a problem once we get it on there. You've got some holes cut out here that, can save you some weight. Same with the side grip. Still looks nice and contoured. Connections wise, you've got a very similar design. You do still have that little screw on the side here, which will give you the second point of attachment to your camera, which I love. That gives you a nice rock solid connection. You don't have to worry about it twisting loose at all. I like that. The bottom of the cage, for the most part, is the same. You've still got the same tool. You've got the same connections. You've still got access to the battery door on the bottom there. The left side of the camera is still a NATO rail up here, whereas the old cage, that NATO rail ran all the way down to the bottom. Here it cuts off about halfway, so you have less area of that NATO rail. If that's a problem or not, I don't know. Otherwise, you're missing a couple of screw threads compared to the old cage, as well as missing these on the side here. I never used them. Same on the top, I never used them. But otherwise, it is similar to the original. It has the same connection for the HDMI clamp, these little tabs on the side of the screw there to hold it in from spinning loose. So this should work with either cage, as well as the old clamp. If you have the old clamp, it should work with either cage. And then looking at the front of the cages, again, similar, I guess. You're missing this little bit right here. Not that I've ever really felt that was necessary. Again, you've got two screws holding this to your camera body, so it is a secure fit already. I don't think that's totally necessary, so they cut it out here. A slimmer overall profile, but with both of these, you're still lacking those forward screw threads. You don't have anything on the front, at the bottom, or on the top in terms of forward-facing screw threads. So if you have a screw-on rod to use for a follow focus or something like that, you're not going to be able to use it here, unfortunately. And before I put this on, I actually want to comment here on the weight, because of course this is a lightweight camera cage compared to the original, and you can feel it in your hands, but I'll be fully honest here, the weight is not important to me. I've never felt that maybe 100 grams one way or the other is really that significant. I've never felt like, oh, this cage is too heavy when it was on my camera. It felt fine to me. So the lightweight aspect of this cage is not so significant. So what I'm really looking for is, for example, I love having this cold shoe on the left side instead of the right side. It is a little bit more slim, so if I have easier or more comfortable access to the buttons and dials up top, of course, if it's still comfortable, those things are key to me, as well as I think the design, the physical design, the appearance of this cage is more significantly different than the weight. I wish they took the opportunity to put these forward-facing screw threads on this new cage. I think that would have been a very significant upgrade from the original. They did not, so the differences are minimal. Cold shoe is the biggest one. Forget the weight. It really doesn't matter. Although, if you really do care, if you're one of the people that really do care, this is, I'd say, noticeably lighter. All right, so in terms of comfort here on the side with the grip, it is very comfortable. It feels very similar to the original cage in that you can't really notice it in your hand. Of course, it sticks out a little bit here where it meets kind of the, I don't know what you call this area, but this part of your hand. Of course, it meets there and you can feel it, but it doesn't cut into your fingers when you grip around the grip of the camera. Your fingers sit on the body of the camera body instead of the cage. I like it. It feels comfortable. It is a much tighter fit above these buttons here, these buttons and dials, but because of that slim design, it's still very easy to access the record button. The function button here is just up against there, but you can find it no problem. This dial here is a bit blocked because it does sit in front of it here. I don't know if you can see that really, but this cage kind of curves right in front of that. Usually when I turn this dial, I push down with one finger and then have one finger in the front, one finger in the back, and I turn it. But now I can't. I have to use just one finger to push it and then the other to turn it this way. I find that much more difficult to do. Huge deal or not, I don't know. With the Nitze cage, there's enough clearance in the front. You can stick your finger in here and here, and you can turn it with two fingers, like I've always done. Same with the original Smallrig cage. There was that clearance in front of this dial, so I could use three fingers total to turn this dial, as I've always done. Whether or not you're really going to be changing this that often, though, I don't know. Maybe it depends on how you use the camera. I've personally had it on movie mode pretty much constantly since I got this camera, so not a huge deal. But it is a bit more difficult to turn that dial with this cage. One other thing I did want to comment about here is on the top of the Smallrig cage with this 3/8 inch screw thread in the center, you have the locating pins on the sides only. You don't have them in the front and back. So like with this handle that they included, you can turn this plate around to completely remove this screw and then turn the plate around so that way they come out either in the front, in the back, or on the left and the right. So that's fine. If you wanted to turn it sideways for whatever reason, you could adjust that so that way you can do that. But if you have a different kind of accessory that you want to mount here, whether it's a top handle, a monitor mount, whatever it is, if it has those locating pins, but they're only facing in one direction, then you're stuck using it in that direction on this cage. Whereas, for example, with the Nitze cage, I'll show you right here on the side, it has locating pins on all 4 sides. So you have freedom to move those accessories whichever direction you want. I also noticed that this cold shoe does have a closed section in the front, so I can't slide this all the way through. It kind of sits in there and doesn't wiggle back and forth, whereas the cold shoe on the original cage was open in both the front and the back. Of course, that means you can slide things in from both sides, but I prefer this way so that way it feels like it has a little bit more of a secure, tight, proper fit. So that is a nice improvement. Small detail. I like it. So yeah, it does work. You can, of course, mount this cold shoe adapter here, mount a rod, and then a follow focus on the left side. So I find that to be a big improvement from the first version of the cage for people who shoot with rigs like this. Still, Smallrig front-facing screw threads would be better, easier, simpler, cheaper. So now the other piece we're taking a look at is this top handle here. I've actually been using a similar top handle. This one here, it's similar, and I say that it has the cold shoe on the front here with the lock. You can lock that in there. This one also has the lock. The difference is here, this handle here pushes to unlock, whereas this one you have to kind of push it down. This one pushes in, this one pushes down. I find the push style like this to be a little bit easier, but these both do have locks on that cold shoe mount, which is cool. You can see the connections on the top are a little bit different. This handle, which I've been using, has only a rear facing cold shoe on the back. This one has one on both top and the back. I find that to be very useful to have both of those there, or all 3 in this case, front, back, and the back. I like that as an improvement over this. You do have that 3/8 inch screw with locating pins all around on the top of the handle, compared to what you have on the actual camera. This handle, on the other hand, does have it only on the sides. So in terms of the connections on the top, I might actually choose this little handle here. The grip on this handle is wood, and it's very, very comfortable, and all of your fingers go behind the vertical section of the handle, the top handle, and on the front there you've got a 3/8 inch screw with multiple different locating pin angles there. So that's nice if you want to mount a monitor mount or something up there. This one does not have a wooden grip, but it is a little bit contoured here. It's rounded off at the edges, and 3 of your fingers will go behind the vertical section, 1 in front. And I find that to be a very secure grip, very comfortable and very secure. And in the front, you do still have that 3/8 inch screw thread with the RE locating pins on all 4 sides. And then down the bottom, the connections are pretty much the same on both of these, 3/8 inch with locating pins that you can rotate to fit either direction. This top handle doesn't necessarily match my other cage, but as with this new lightweight cage that we got, this new handle is also more lightweight, and it is also a bit smaller, but it does retain pretty much all of the functionality. Plus, it has that top side cold shoe in the back, which I prefer over this one, which doesn't have it. Sometimes I want to mount something on the top, but in the back. Or if you reverse it, then it's going to be in the front, depending on the center of gravity of your rig. So I think this flexibility is better. One thing that I don't like about either of these handles is that there's no tool hidden inside of the handle. Some of the top handles from Smallrig and from other brands as well have a Allen wrench kind of hidden inside of there, and that's very useful, especially for these, because in this screw here they have the holes where you can stick one in and really tighten it down on top of your rig. And I think that having that tool right in the handle would be great, because you don't have to go digging through your bag to find the right tool to make that work. I think that by hand, yeah, you can get it pretty tight, but it's gonna come loose over, I don't know, an hour or whatever of use. So being able to really tighten that down just a bit more with that tool is definitely something you want to do. So it would make sense to have it in the handle. Neither of these do. Anyway, in terms of comfort, this feels, I think, very comfortable. Again, depending on the lens or whatever you have on your rig, the center of balance may be different. You could reverse it and have your hand a little bit further forward, of course, but this feels comfortable, and the materials feel nice. It has a nice smooth feel to it. All the contours are nice. My hand fits nice and securely in there. Yeah, I like this. And again, overall, this is going to be more lightweight than the original cage, plus this larger handle or any of the other handles that Smallrig has. So I like this for the most part. I do have complaints. Forward-facing screw threads, for example. I wish they had that in the top handle. I wish there was a tool kind of hidden away in here, so that way you could really tighten it down without having to go digging through your bag for that tool. The mode dial on here is not as accessible or not as easy to manipulate with this cage on here as it was with the original or as it was with the Nitze cage. If you're going to change that a lot, then that may be a concern for you. For me, it's not really, because I never change it. All the other buttons and dials are fully accessible, so no problems there. And I think, of course, it's lightweight, but that's not the main concern. If, for whatever reason, weight is a concern for you, it is lightweight, so it does the job. Which cage will I be using, this or the Nitze? I don't know. I'll be fully honest with you, I don't know. I really like that the Smallrig cage has that second connection with the screw through the strap loophole. It gives a much more secure fit. I've been using my old Smallrig cage with that design on this camera since I first got it, and it hasn't come off and it hasn't come loose. It's extremely strongly and securely on there, which I do appreciate. The Nitze cage, for example, only has the bottom screw. The Nitze cage has, I think, overall better connections. It has more access to that top button, has more angles for the locating pins for different accessories, and it does have those front-facing screw threads. It is significantly heavier and bulkier than this new cage from Smallrig though, so if you're looking for a streamlined, lightweight rig, then this is going to win out. I also think that overall Smallrig has more accessories like this top handle. You can coordinate the colors, you can coordinate the style. You have just more options in general because they've been around for so long. There are a million parts that Smallrig make. Which is, you know, nice to be in that ecosystem. Nitze is great, but I think that overall the ecosystem is still growing compared to Smallrig. But I honestly think it's going to be really a difficult choice between these two. I would be happy with either of them, and I think it's going to depend on how you're going to rig up your camera. If you're using a manual follow focus more often, then I think that this would be a better choice for you, because I like the placement on the bottom corner with that screw-in rod for the follow focus compared to using the cold shoe. You can use the cold shoe here, but I prefer to have that rod that screws into the cage on the Nitze. If you're not as concerned about that, or if you set your camera up differently, then I do like the way that this Smallrig cage looks. It's thin, it's streamlined, lightweight. I like the color. I don't think it really matters, but it's just that little bit off pure black that I think looks really nice aesthetically. I like this top handle. It's, you know, lightweight. It's very secure the way that it fits in your hand. You can have all kinds of connections with it, front, back, top, rear, side, whatever you want to call it. All kinds of screw threads up there and everything. So you tell me, which one would you choose? Let me know down in the comments. Maybe you could help me decide which one of these I would want to use. Maybe you can help other people decide for whatever your personal reason is. Let me know down below which and why of these you would choose, if that question makes sense. I'm tired. But if you have any further questions for today, let me know down in those comments as well, and I will do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, if you liked this video or found it helpful, please do consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing if you haven't already, sharing, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.